Greetings. It is Monday, March the 2nd, in the very eventful year of 2026. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is the Monday Morning Report. Something to keep in mind in the coming hours, days, weeks, and who knows how long. The first casualty of war is truth. No one's really sure where that statement came from. It may go back as far as ancient Greece, from what I understand, but it's pretty timeless, just like the folly of man, and frankly, the need to always get rid of the bad guy. Okay, let's unpack what's going on. The U.S. and Israel, of course, have attacked Iran. There are missiles flying, planes being shot down. There was an incident that happened overnight that's still confused. Apparently, 3 American F-15 Strike Eagles were accidentally shot down by the Kuwaitis. At least that's the last report I saw. Not much is being talked about that or how badly people are hurt. A few Americans have been killed, no surprise there. A lot of Iranians have been killed, including the top dog, and I mean dog, himself, Mr. Ali Khamenei. Oh boy. Well, let me just put some things in perspective. First off, although people have been complaining for years about the mainstream media, the alternative media is turning out to be not that much better. It's clickbait heaven on the internet right now as everybody's making predictions as to what's going to happen. The U.S. is going to win. The U.S. is going to lose. Israel is going to be destroyed. Israel won't be destroyed. Iran will survive. Iran will not survive. World War III. You name it. There's a scenario out there being talked about. Don't believe any of it because no one is certain. Nothing is certain when a war starts, and anyone who will tell you otherwise is a fool, a liar, or both. No matter how many years they did in any given military, no matter how many times they were an advisor to a head of anything, forget it. There's too much randomness in the affairs of man, and, war is when it gets even more random. Many people don't know the story of the Cuban Missile Crisis, where there was a Russian sub-commander who was told to fire a nuclear-tipped torpedo at American ships. And the 2 other officers on his ship said yes, he said no. There was a confusion that there had been a nuclear strike or something, and anyways, this guy saved humanity. But if he had caved in to the 2 other people, none of us would be here today. You don't know. This is why war is such a dangerous thing, folks. Something to be avoided. But this one has started. Now, let's go to some reality checks here. First off, all the people who are left-wing and all the people who are right-wing, the extremes of either side, the people that are into the Adolf Hitler fan clubs and those that are in Antifa, both of them say, no, we shouldn't do this. It's kind of funny that they agree on something for a change. Well, let's put it to you this way. This might not have been the best way to go after Iran's Islamic fundamentalist country. They've been around 47 years, and I can say with some first-hand witnessing, Islamic fundamentalism is one of the worst things that's happened to humanity in recent centuries. It's bad, and it all starts with Iran, the fall of the Shah, and the stupid U.S. president at the time, Jimmy Carter, cursed be his name, setting everything in motion that eventually led to 9/11, led to all sorts of terrorist attacks, the destruction of many countries in the Middle East. No, this is a government that has to go. It really has to go. It's had to go for a long time. What is happening is Jimmy Carter's bill is being paid. Now, is it the best way to do it? At this point, it doesn't matter. Was it right to side with Israel on this? At this point, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that the U.S. finish what it starts. Because the Islamic Republic of Iran, the government of that once great civilization, needs to be destroyed. So those of you out there that are rooting for the U.S. to lose, especially those of the feminist class, if you want to see an example of Handmaid's Tale for real, just look to Iran, and you pretty much have that. You forget a few years ago there were uprisings of women being forced to wear headdresses, and some were murdered by their government for it. Doesn't that sound a little bit hypocritical? But then again, you have homosexual groups endorsing Islamic fundamentalism, clown world, insanity, something that also has to be destroyed, as I say every week. But let me tell you what, we don't really know exactly what's going on, but here's what I've gotten from some sources in the Middle East, and that the missile attacks that occurred all over the place have gone down in frequency in the last day or so. They're not as frequent as they were in the beginning. There have been some reports, somewhat reliable, that a lot of Iranian soldiers are defecting, shaving off their beards, and showing up at the Afghan border. Shaving off their beards so they can't be identified, apparently. Not verified, but not much is verifiable these days in this department. It looks like Iran is losing. That government has to go. But there's one danger in this particular strategy, and that is that success is going to depend on the Iranian people themselves. Now, even though the U.S. has massive firepower on the ocean and massive firepower in the air, it doesn't have a large land force at this point, especially one in the Middle East. Now, if you go back to World War II, Japan and Germany, especially Germany, were pulverized by Allied bombing. Pulverized. Germany was about the size of Texas. Can you imagine thousands of bombers going into Texas every day and dropping tons and tons, hundreds of tons, millions of tons of bombs? That would be a real mess. But you know what? At the end of the day, that didn't defeat the Germans. What defeated the Germans were armies rolling in and taking things by force. U.S. is not going to win this just by dropping bombs and just by sending ships in to launch more aircraft. No, it's going to take the Iranian people and probably the Iranian military to seize power and end the nightmare that has plagued not only Iranian civilization, but human civilization for 47 years. That is an interesting and somewhat dangerous strategy. Whatever you say about Donald Trump, he has taken one hell of a risk. This is one hell of a risk-reward ratio. This is like someone sitting down in Vegas or Atlantic City and pushing all their chips on the table. If they win, they win big. If they lose everything. That's what's at stake. The thing about it is, it's not just Trump, it's us. If Iran survives this mess, it will come back, it will be unstoppable, as will all of its followers. Religious fanaticism is the most dangerous thing out there. And this has to end. But it has to end with the U.S. and Israel defeating the Islamic Republic of Iran. Forget your hatred for Trump. Forget your Trump derangement syndrome pills for now, okay? Just stop this, because the U.S. really has to win this. Saudi Arabia, all these other countries in the Middle East, they want to see Iran change its government as well. And in spite of all of you people protesting this, who don't understand the War Powers Act. By the way, the War Powers Act says that Congress has to be notified by the president within 90 days of starting something like this. He has a little bit more time. Again, we have so many people out there that think they know what they're talking about, but they don't. Now, this is a real risk right here. Again, I wouldn't have done it this way. I would have subverted this country the way the Soviet Union was subverted, with all sorts of interesting methodologies I won't elaborate on right now. Eventually, the Soviet Union collapsed without a fight. Iran could have been in that class had earlier presidential administrations been consistent with the fact that they were an enemy, not just of the U.S., but of all civilized beings. Now, you might not like Donald Trump. You might not like the way he does things. You might not like the Israelis. Boy, there's a lot of people out there that don't like the Israelis. But you got to weigh things realistically. And the fact is that the U.S. has got to win this one, And the Islamic Republic of Iran has got to lose this. So grow up. And at the same time, be very careful with all the commentary out there, because at the end of the day, we don't know how it's going to go. There's going to be one individual, 2, 10, at some place, at some point, that are going to do something that will change everything. It could be a handful of Iranian generals that decide to take power and overthrow the government and bring back the Shah, who's been living for decades in Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., waiting for this to happen. Or some American pilot could screw things up. Some Chinese technician, and believe me, there's a lot of Chinese technicians in Iran right now testing out their new weapons. You know, the same people that make our toasters and other such things? Yeah, well, they're trying out their toys in Iran right now on Americans to see if they kill. So they'll know whether or not to use their toys when they try to take Taiwan. Here's something to keep in mind. This is something we did learn the hard way from World War II. The government of the Islamic Republic of Iran is the enemy, but the people are not. The Chinese Communist Party, at least parts of it, are the enemy. The Chinese people are not. This is what makes modern warfare so difficult. We're trying to make things better, not just kill. It's a complicated world. Do not try to oversimplify it, though, because when you oversimplify things, that's when the horror really gets unleashed. No, I'm not very happy with how Donald Trump decided to pursue this course of action, but I really wish him well now. I wish the military well, and I hope and pray that we will see the end of the horrifying regime known as the Islamic Republic of Iran. And all those people who've died over the last several decades, and in recent weeks who've been slaughtered, the Iranians who've been slaughtered by their own government, will not have died in vain. And may there never be a religious fundamentalist state of any kind arising anywhere on this planet. We can't let that happen again, people. Religion and state do have to be made separate. Theocracies never make the world a better place. In fact, they're quite godless if you really think about it. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies. And if they're real bad enemies, don't forget it and don't give up. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, Clown World, the deep state, and the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran must be destroyed. Good day, and to the U.S. forces out there, good hunting.